The ballroom of Moonfall Citadel shimmered like a living thing, crystal chandeliers breathing silver light, marble floors reflecting the glow of 1,000 candles, and the air thick with power. Every wolf in the Northern Kingdom felt it tonight. The Alpha King had returned. King Kyle Blackthorn, ruler of all 13 packs, stood at the highest days, dressed in obsidian silk and wolf steel. His presence alone bent the room, voices softened, laughter thinned, hearts beat faster. Golden eyes scanned the crowd with the patience of a predator who knew nothing here could escape him. Except one scent, fresh, wild, unclaimed. Kyle's jaw tightened as it brushed his senses again, warm like rain-soaked earth and moon-blooming jasmine. His wolf stirred, restless, ancient, demanding, find her. Below the dais, Lyraval stood near a column, utterly unaware that the Alpha King of the realm had just noticed her existence. Lyra was no noble, no daughter of power. Just an archivist's assistant from the Ashen Pack, invited only because she could read ancient runes faster than most elders. She wore a simple midnight blue gown, hair pinned loosely, eyes curious rather than fearful. She leaned toward her friend and whispered, breathless, half laughing, "He's so hot." Her gaze wasn't on the throne. It was on Rowan Hale, the better commander. Rowan stood among the warriors, broad-shouldered, relaxed, a crooked smile playing on his lips as he accepted greetings. He laughed easily, like someone who carried strength without cruelty. His sleeves were rolled up, scars visible, confidence effortless. Lyra felt heat crawl up her neck. "He doesn't even know he's beautiful," she murmured. "That should be illegal." Rowan glanced her way just for a second and smiled. That was when the air shifted. A crack of raw alpha power slammed through the ballroom like thunder. Candles flickered. Glass trembled. Wolves stiffened mid-breath. On the dais, Kyle Blackthorn froze. The words echoed in his head, slow and poisonous. "He's so hot." About the beta, his wolf roared to the surface, fury laced with something far more dangerous, jealousy. Not mild irritation, not curiosity, possession. Kyle's hand clenched the arm of the throne until the metal groaned. Who was she? This female bold enough to awaken something he had buried beneath centuries of rule and war. And why did the thought of another male earning her admiration make his blood burn? "Better, Rowan," Kale said suddenly, his voice slicing through the music. Silence fell like a blade. Rowan straightened instantly, instinctively bowing. "My king, come forward." Every wolf in the room felt it, the tension, the warning, the unspoken challenge. Rowan stepped into the open, unaware that he had just become the focus of an alpha's wrath. Kyle descended from the dais, each step deliberate, controlled. His gaze never left Rowan until at the last moment it flicked past him, and locked onto Lyra. Time fractured. Her breath hitched as golden eyes found hers, ancient, commanding, burning with something that made her knees weaken. She should have bowed, should have looked away. She didn't. Something passed between them, sharp, electric, terrifying. Hailed her. The realization struck him like fate itself. The Alpha King smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Better, Rowan," Kale said softly, dangerously. "I hear you've been making quite an impression tonight." A ripple of unease spread through the hall. Rowan swallowed. "I serve the crown, my king." Kale's gaze flicked back to Lyra, lingering just long enough for her heart to thunder in her chest. "Oh," Kale murmured, voice dropping, "I know exactly who you serve." And in that moment, Lyra understood one terrifying truth. Her careless whisper had just ignited a war between wolves. And the Alpha King did not lose what he wanted. When the Alpha marks his claim, Moonfall Citadel had never felt so quiet. Lyra could still feel the Alpha King's gaze on her skin as she slipped out of the ballroom, her heart pounding harder with every step down the torchlit corridor. The music behind her faded, but the tension followed, thick, heavy, alive. Stupid, she scolded herself. One careless sentence. "He's so hot." She pressed her palm to her chest, trying to calm her racing pulse. She hadn't meant anything by it. Rowan was kind, easy to talk to, and yes, attractive, that was all. So why did it feel like she just stepped into the path of a storm? "Lyra." She stopped dead. Rowan's voice. He caught up to her, boots echoing softly on stone. Up close, he smelled of pine and steel, comforting, familiar. "You vanished," he said gently. "Are you all right?" "I'm fine. Just needed air." Rowan studied her face, brow furrowing. "The Alpha King, when he looked at you, I noticed," she whispered. Rowan's jaw tightened. That wasn't a casual look. Before Lyra could answer, the torches along the corridor flared blue, white flames snapping to attention. Every instinct in Rowan screamed. Alpha. The air thickened with crushing dominance, so powerful Lyra's knees nearly buckled. A shadow filled the corridor behind them. King Kyle Blackthorn stood there silent as death itself. Rowan turned instantly and dropped to one knee. "My king," Lyra's breath caught. She lowered her gaze, pulse roaring in her ears, and dipped into a clumsy bow. Kyle didn't acknowledge Rowan. His attention was entirely, devastatingly on her. "Look at me," he commanded. The words were not loud, but they were absolute. Lyra's body obeyed before her mind could argue. Her eyes lifted, colliding with his golden stare. Heat flared low in her belly, shocking and unwanted. Kyle stepped closer. One step, then another. Rowan felt the warning in the air like a blade at his throat. "My king," Rowan said carefully, "if I have offended—" "You have not," Kyle interrupted. His gaze never left Lyra. "You," he said to her softly, "have done nothing wrong. I only spoke without thinking." Kyle's lips curved faintly. "Honesty is not a crime in my kingdom." He inhaled again, deeply. Her scent wrapped around him, feeding the beast inside his chest. Unmated, untouched, powerful in ways she didn't yet understand. "A mine," his wolf growled. "Your Majesty, if you require my presence elsewhere—"
"Yes,"
Kale said coldly. "You are dismissed." Rowan stiffened. For half a heartbeat, his gaze flicked to Lyra, concern, apology, something unspoken. Then he bowed.
"As you command."
His footsteps faded, leaving Lyra alone with the most dangerous wolf in the realm. Silence stretched. Kyle reached out. Lyra flinched. His fingers brushed her wrist, barely a touch, but lightning tore through her veins. She gasped, breath shattering. Kyle's eyes darkened. "You felt that," he said quietly. Lyra nodded, unable to speak. "That," Kale murmured, thumb resting where her pulse raced, "was not jealousy alone." Her breath trembled. Then what was it? The Alpha King leaned closer, his voice a low promise. Fate. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Kyle straightened abruptly, jaw tightening as if restraining himself. "You will stay in Moonfall Citadel," he said, turning immediately. Lyra stared at him in shock. "I can't. My pack. I will inform them." Kale said over his shoulder, "You are under my protection now." Protection. It sounded too much like a claim. Kyle paused at the end of the corridor, glancing back once, eyes burning, possessive, conflicted. "Lyra Vale," he said, tasting her name like a vow. "Do not praise another male in my hearing again." Then he was gone. Lyra sagged against the stone wall, heart racing, skin still buzzing where he'd touched her. Somewhere deep within her, something ancient stirred, awake, answering his call. And far away on the palace balcony, Rowan Hale stared into the night, a knot forming in his chest. Because he knew one terrifying truth. The Alpha King had just marked her without teeth, and the consequences were coming. The Omega who was never meant to kneel. Moonfall Citadel did not sleep, it watched. Lyra lay awake in the guest chamber assigned to her, silk curtains, a bed too large, moonlight spilling across the stone floor like silver fire. Every breath felt borrowed. Every heartbeat echoed with the memory of golden eyes and a touch that had rewritten her blood. "You are under my protection now." Her fingers curled into the sheets. Protection or possession? She rose quietly and crossed to the tall mirror near the window. For a moment she didn't recognize the woman staring back. Her eyes seemed brighter, her skin warm, as if something beneath it had been lit. A soft heat bloomed at her wrist. Lyra gasped there, faint but unmistakable. Was the shadow of a mark. "Acclaimed shadow? What are you?" she whispered to herself. A knock broke the silence. Lyra spun. "Yes." The door opened to reveal Elder Maren Moonfall's seer, her silver hair braided with bones and moonstone. Her dark eyes glinted with something close to awe. "So," the Elder murmured, stepping inside, "the Alpha has finally found you." Lyra stiffened. "Found me for what?" Maren closed the door with care. "For what you are." Before Lyra could protest, the Elder took her wrist, turning it gently toward the moonlight. The shadow mark shimmered faintly. Maren inhaled sharply. "By the stars." "I didn't ask for this," Lyra said, voice trembling. "I'm not an Omega meant for a throne." Maren's gaze snapped up. "Omega." She gave a soft, humorless laugh. "Child, you are no Omega." Lyra's heart skipped. "Then what am I?" Maren released her wrist and bowed her head slightly, in respect. "You are a moonbound." The word fell like prophecy. "A bloodline older than Alpha and Omega," Maren continued. "Rare. Thought extinct. Moonbound wolves do not submit, they choose. Their mate is not decided by hierarchy, but by balance." Lyra staggered back. "That's impossible." Kel felt it, Maren said quietly. His jealousy wasn't weakness. It was recognition. Lyra's mind reeled. So that pull wasn't madness. It was destiny awakening. Elsewhere in the Citadel, destiny sharpened its claws. Rowan Hale stood in the training yard long past midnight, striking a practice post again and again, the wood splintering under his fists. Sweat drenched his shirt, breath harsh in his chest. He'd never feared the Alpha King until now. Because this wasn't politics, this was personal. "You'll destroy the yard if you keep that up," came a calm voice. Rowan turned. Kale Blackthorn stood at the edge of the torchlight, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Rowan dropped to one knee out of instinct. "My king." Kyle's gaze lingered on him. "Measuring, dangerous. You care for her." "It wasn't a question." Rowan's jaw tightened. "Lie to me again," Kale said softly, "and I will remove you from my command." Rowan met his gaze, pulse pounding. "Then hear the truth. I would never harm her." Kyle's wolf surged, furious and strangely restrained. "I know," Kale said. "That is why you are still breathing." Silence crackled between them. "She is moonbound," Kale continued, "which means she is not mine to order." Rowan's eyes widened despite himself. "And yet," Kale said, voice dropping, "if you step between us, I will treat it as treason." Rowan swallowed. "And if she chooses?" Kyle's golden eyes flashed. "Then the kingdom will burn," he said honestly. Back in her chamber, Lyra stood on the balcony, moonlight bathing her skin. She raised her face to the sky and felt something answer. Power flowed through her veins. The moonbound awakened. Far below, shadows moved. A hooded figure watched the balcony, fingers tightening around a silver blade etched with forbidden runes. "The moonbound lives," the figure whispered. "Then the Alpha King must fall." The blade gleamed. War had found its first breath. Blood under the moon. The night shattered without warning. Lyra's breath caught as the moon above Moonfall's citadel flickered. Not in the sky, but inside her chest. A sharp ache spread through her veins, instinct screaming danger. She turned. Too late, the balcony doors burst inward, wood exploding into splinters as a silver blade sliced through the air, aimed straight for her heart. Lyra screamed. Time slowed. The assassin's cloak rippled, runes burning crimson along the dagger, anti-alpha magic, killing steel, the kind meant to end legends. Something ancient inside Lyra snapped awake. The moon answered her cry. A surge of pale light erupted from her body, blasting outward like a shockwave. The assassin was thrown back violently, crashing into the far wall, ribs cracking. Lyra collapsed to her knees, gasping, hands glowing faintly. What did I do?" Alarms howled through the citadel. In the training yard, Kale froze mid-step her. Without thought, without command, he shifted. Bone tore, muscle surged, black fur ripping through silk as the Alpha King became the Night Wolf. Massive, lethal, unstoppable. He launched himself toward the palace tower, tearing across stone and shadow in a blur of fury. Guards flooded the corridors, but Kyle reached her first. He burst into the chamber, half-shifted, golden eyes blazing. Lyra looked up at him, shaking, terrified, glowing like moonfire. "Kale," she whispered. He was at her side in an instant, hands gripping her shoulders, scanning her for wounds. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, tears spilling. "They tried to kill me." A low, murderous growl rolled from his chest. The assassin groaned behind them, trying to rise. Kyle turned slowly. The room darkened. He crossed the distance in 2 strides and lifted the wood, beat Killer by the throat, slamming him against the wall. The runes on the blade flickered violently, reacting to Kyle's rage. "Who sent you?" Kale snarled, voice layered with the beast. The assassin laughed through blood. "The moonbound ends tonight." Kale's claws pressed deeper. "Not," he said coldly, "while I breathe." He snapped the assassin's neck without hesitation. The body hit the floor with a dull thud. Silence followed, heavy, irrevocable. Lyra stared, horrified, and yet something inside her didn't recoil. It understood. Kyle turned back to her, rage draining, leaving raw fear in its wake. He knelt before her, bringing himself to eye level. "You called the moon?" he said softly. "That should have been impossible. I didn't know." Hugged herself. "I didn't know how to stop it." Kyle reached out, hesitating for the first time since she'd met him. "You saved yourself. And me." She laughed weakly. "You're the Alpha King, you don't need saving." Kyle's eyes softened dangerously. "You have no idea." Footsteps thundered in the hall. Rowan burst in, sword drawn. Eyes wild, he froze at the sight. Dead assassin, shattered chamber, Lyra glowing faintly in Kale's arms. Rowan breathed. "Are you safe?" Kale's arm tightened around her waist, possessive, unmistakable. "She is," Kale said. "Because I was here." Rowan's jaw clenched. "Because she was strong." Their gazes locked, alpha and beta, power and loyalty, desire and restraint. Lyra felt it then, the pull between 3 fates, tightening like a knot. Elder Marin entered last, face grave. One look at the corpse told her everything. "The Shadow Council has moved," she said quietly. "They will not stop now." Kale rose, fury returning, but controlled, sharpened. Then neither will we. He looked down at Lyra, something fierce and reverent in his eyes. The Moonbound will stand beside the throne, he declared, and anyone who threatens her will answer to me. Lyra met his gaze, steady now, awakened. Not beside, she said softly. Kale stilled, with Lyra corrected, I kneel to no one. For a heartbeat the world held its breath. Then Kyle smiled, not as a king, as an equal. And in the shadows beyond the citadel, darker forces listened, and began to plan a war that would drown kingdoms in blood. The fire between three hearts. Morning came to Moonfall Citadel like a held breath finally released. Sunlight spilled over broken stone and shattered glass, illuminating the scars left behind by the night's bloodshed. Servants whispered. Warriors sharpened blades. The kingdom knew something had changed. Lyra stood in the inner training circle, barefoot on cold marble, the moon sigil carved beneath her feet faintly glowing. Elder Mayrin circled her slowly, staff tapping in measured rhythm. Do not reach for the power, Mayrin instructed. Invite it. Lyra closed her eyes. She inhaled. The world shifted. She felt the moon, not above but within, steady, vast, patient. Light pooled beneath her skin, responding not to command but to will. Her hands lifted. Silver, white energy bloomed, coiling like mist around her arms. Mayrin smiled grimly. Go again. From the shadowed archway, Kale watched. He had faced armies without fear, challenged ancient beasts, ruled through blood and law. Yet watching Lyra awaken, something older than his crown left his chest tight. She will outgrow us all, murmured Rowan, standing beside him. Kale didn't look away. She already has. Rowan exhaled slowly. Then why does she look at you like that? As if summoned by the words, Lyra opened her eyes and found Kale's gaze across the circle. Her power faltered. The light flickered. Kale felt it like a pull in his bones. Rowan saw it for what it was. Danger. Focus, Mayrin snapped. Power divided is power lost. Lyra tore her gaze away, cheeks flushing. The energy steadied once more. But the damage was done. That night, the citadel gathered for council. Lyra sat at the round stone table, not below it, not above it, among them. Pack leaders shifted uneasily. Some stared with open awe, others with fear. The Shadow Council has hunted moonbound blood for centuries, Mayrin said. They fear what cannot be controlled. And now they know she lives, growled a Southern Alpha. This puts us all at risk. Kyle's hand slammed onto the table. She fears the risk, he said coldly to the speaker. Not Lyra. To our enemies. Lyra met his gaze. I won't be a weapon pointed by anyone. A murmur rippled through the chamber. Kyle nodded once. Then stand with me. Not as my subject. Rowan's chest tightened, because he saw it then, clear as daylight. Kyle loved her, not in whispers, not in denial, in the way that could topple thrones. After the council, Rowan found Lyra alone in the eastern garden, moonflowers blooming pale and fragrant. You should rest, he said gently. She smiled, tired but real. You always sound like you're taking care of me. Someone has to. Rowan replied softly. Silence stretched between them. Rowan, Lyra said finally, what happens if I don't choose the path everyone expects? He studied her face, the strength, the fear, the fire. Then I'll stand where you stand, even if it costs me everything. Her breath caught. Before either could move closer, the air crushed. Kale stood at the garden's edge, eyes dark, control hanging by a thread. That sounds dangerously close to treason, he said quietly. Rowan turned, shoulders squaring. Or loyalty to her. Lyra stepped between them, power humming beneath her skin. Enough, she said. Both wolves stilled. She looked at Kyle first. I will not be claimed through jealousy. Then at Rowan. And I will not be protected by sacrifice. Her voice steadied, moonbound strength ringing through it. I choose myself. The garden trembled. Moonlight flared overhead, bathing Lyra in silver fire. Symbols ignited along the stones, ancient, forgotten. Mayrin's voice echoed from the shadows, awed and afraid. The prophecy awakens. Lyra felt it then, the truth unfolding like a blade. She was not meant to choose between Alpha and Beta. She was meant to change the order itself. Kyle stared at her, not angry, in awe. Rowan exhaled, heartbreaking and soaring all at once. And far beyond the citadel walls, the Shadow Council felt the shift, and prepared to unleash something far worse than assassins. A monster that even kings feared. The rise of the moonbound queen. The citadel trembled under a storm that wasn't entirely natural. Lyra stood atop the eastern balcony, her silver, white hair catching the moonlight, eyes glowing faintly with power that had once been whispered about only in ancient texts. The air thrummed around her, alive with energy, the heartbeat of a kingdom ready to be remade. Below, Kale Blackthorn stood, massive and golden-eyed, his fur bristling even in human form. His voice, calm but edged with danger, carried up to her. "Do you feel it?" he asked. Lyra inhaled, closing her eyes. The power inside her wasn't just hers. It was theirs, the Alpha, the Beta, the bloodline of the Moonbound. And yet it pulsed first and foremost for her own will. "I do," she whispered. "And I won't let anyone control it." Kale's wolf growled low in his chest. A warning. Rowan stepped beside him, blade still in hand from training earlier. He kept his distance, but his eyes never left her. "Neither of us will," he said quietly. The moment shattered when the gates of Moonfall Citadel exploded outward. Black smoke poured into the night, carrying the unmistakable scent of the Shadow Council. From the chaos a figure emerged, a towering beast clad in silver and shadow, a champion of the Council, sent to test the Moonbound and the Alpha King alike. Kyle growled, first snapping into place. "Stay behind me." Lyra's pulse raced, not with fear, but with recognition. The Moonbound inside her hummed. "I'm not behind anyone," she said. "I stand with you or against you." The Shadow Champion advanced, eyes glowing like molten steel. Wolves from surrounding packs lunged, but Kyle, Lyra, and Rowan moved as one. Kyle's claws tore through the air, a storm of fury and strength. Rowan's blade danced, precise and deadly, keeping enemies at bay, and Lyra unleashed the Moonbound power fully. Silver, white tendrils of energy shot from her hands, twisting around the champion, cutting through steel and shadow, and yet leaving the flesh unharmed, for now. She was not a destroyer, but a balance. The champion roared, clawing at the energy like a cornered wolf. Kyle's growl deepened. "Do not falter," Lyra's eyes blazed. With a thought, she twisted the energy, wrapping the champion in a cocoon of moonlight. Then, with a single pulse, the light shot forward. The champion screamed, not in pain, but in revelation. He fell to his knees, powerless, stripped of the Shadow Council's dark magic. Silence hung over the battlefield. Kale stepped forward, jaws flexing, eyes locked on Lyra. "You have done what no wolf in history could." Rowan's chest heaved. "You're extraordinary." Lyra exhaled, dropping to her knees, drained but triumphant. She looked up at Kyle. "This doesn't make you less powerful," she said softly. "It means we are stronger together." Kyle's expression softened. Not the Alpha King of legend, but a wolf who understood, for the first time, that dominance alone could not command loyalty or love or destiny. He knelt beside her. "Together," he agreed. Rowan stepped forward, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "Then let's rebuild as one." From the shadows, Elder Mayrin appeared, staff tapping lightly, her eyes gleamed with pride. "The prophecy is no longer just words. The Moonbound Queen rises." Lyra lifted her head, silver, white hair glowing like starlight. She was not a pawn, not an omega, not a whisper in the darkness. She was the storm, the future, and the balance the kingdom had never known. And somewhere, deep in the north, the Shadow Council trembled, because the Moonbound bloodline had awakened, and the Alpha King was no longer the only force to fear. Thrones of blood and moonlight. Moonfall Citadel had changed forever. The halls no longer whispered merely of the Alpha King's power. They thrummed with the presence of the Moonbound Queen, and every wolf in the kingdom felt it in their bones. Lyra stood in the grand throne room, silver light cascading through the shattered windows. The ancient throne, carved from obsidian and moonstone, had been empty for centuries, waiting for the one who could command balance without cruelty. Now, the crown of the Moonbound called to her. Kyle stepped beside her, silent, golden eyes reflecting both awe and something deeper, possessiveness wrapped in reverence. Rowan followed a few paces behind, blade at his side but loyalty evident in the tilt of his head. The council assembled alphas, betas, elders, warriors from every pack. Their eyes were wide, awe-struck, but wary some trembled. Few dared speak. Lyra lifted her voice, calm but powerful, echoing off stone walls. "I am Lyra Vale," she declared, "Moonbound, guardian of balance, and no one's pawn. The throne is not mine to rule over others, but it is mine to protect the harmony of our packs. Those who threaten that balance will answer to all of us." Carl's golden gaze sharpened, and he said, stepping forward, stand beside her. "Not above, not beneath." Rowan's heart clenched. He wanted to say more, to fight for her attention, her trust, her choice, but he knew the truth staring him in the face. Lyra was no ordinary mate. She was destiny, and both Alpha and Beta were part of that destiny in ways they would only understand through fire and moonlight. Then, from the shadowed corner, a chilling voice cut through the silence. "You think your balance can stop us?" The Shadow Council's leader stepped forward, cloaked in black and silver, eyes glinting with malice. Behind him, masked assassins emerged, weapons enchanted with anti-moonbound magic. Carl growled low in his throat, claws flexing. This ends tonight. Lyra's silver eyes flared. It ends when I say it ends. She lifted her hands, summoning the moonbound energy fully. Light twisted, forming a protective dome over the citadel. The assassins screamed as the energy burned away their magic, leaving their bodies intact but powerless. The Shadow Council leader roared and lunged, far stronger than any foe Lyra had faced. But before he could reach her, Kyle and Rowan moved as one. Kyle's strength collided with the intruder, Rowan's blade precise and deadly, and Lyra's energy encased the battlefield in silver flames. The clash was cinematic, steel against claws, shadow against light, the air shimmering with raw power. Wolves fought beside wolves, magic against magic, until finally Lyra stepped forward. With a single pulse, the council leader was thrown to his knees, stripped of enchantments, staring up at her in disbelief. "I am the Moonbound," Lyra said firmly, voice resonating with authority. "And no darkness will rule here." Kyle's hand found hers instinctively, grounding her. Rowan bowed his head slightly, acknowledging her power without question. The three of them, Alpha, Beta, and Moonbound, stood united, the heartbeat of the kingdom echoing in their steps. The Shadow Council fled, their dark plans shattered. But the warning remained clear, others would come. Kyle leaned close to Lyra, voice low but fierce. "You are mine, Lyra. Not by claim, not by force, but because no other could withstand the storm you are." Rowan's jaw clenched, fighting his own feelings. "And I am yours too," he whispered, stepping forward, "but as protector, not possessor. Your path is your own." Lyra looked between them, fury, love, loyalty, and fire tangled together, and smiled softly. "Then we walk it together." Outside, the moon shone brighter than ever, bathing Moonfall Citadel in silver fire. The prophecy was no longer a tale whispered in fear, it was reality. And Lyra Vale, the moonbound queen, had claimed her place in a world where even kings and warriors would bend to her will. But somewhere, in the shadows beyond the northern mountains, whispers of revenge stirred. The Shadow Council would return. The next battle had only just begun. The moonbound awakening. The halls of Moonfall Citadel pulsed with life, energy, and power. Lyra walked through them now not as a guest or an apprentice, but as a queen in her own right, her presence alone commanding attention. Silver, white light shimmered faintly around her, a constant reminder that she was no ordinary wolf. Kyle followed closely, protective yet restrained. Every so often his golden eyes would soften, tracing the lines of her face, the curve of her jaw, the fire in her eyes. He wanted to claim her, but knew she would never kneel to anyone. Rowan walked a pace behind, ever vigilant, ever loyal, his own emotions a tangled storm. He could sense the pull she had on Kale, the way the Alpha's dominance softened when she was near, but he also felt her energy, raw and commanding, bending even him in subtle ways. In the training yard, Lyra's powers were tested for the first time since the last attack. Elder Mayron stood at a distance, staff raised. "You must control it, Lyra, or it will control you," she warned. Lyra inhaled deeply. Moonlight seemed to settle into her bones, responding to her heartbeat. She stretched her hands outward. An energy swirled into a vortex around her. She could feel the citadel bending slightly under her power, stone and steel responding to her will. Kyle stepped forward. "Focus on balance, not destruction," he instructed. Rowan moved to her other side. "And remember, I am here, you are not alone." Lyra nodded. She closed her eyes, letting her power flow naturally. Silver tendrils wrapped around Kale and Rowan, linking them, strength, loyalty, and protection forming an unbreakable chain. Then, with a thought, she sent the energy outward in a wave that swept across the yard, harmlessly yet completely disarming every training dummy, knocking weapons into the air, and bending the light into a dazzling display. The Alpha King let out a low whistle. "I have never seen anything like this." Rowan shook his head, eyes wide. "Neither have I, you are incredible." Lyra smiled faintly, but then her expression sharpened. "This is only the beginning. The Shadow Council will strike again, and next time, they will not hold back." Kyle's wolf growled in agreement. "Then we strike first." Later that night, the Citadel's balcony became a stage for quiet tension. The moon hung low, casting silver light over the gardens. Kyle stood close, his hand brushing against hers, tentative yet protective. Rowan's gaze met hers from across the terrace, respect and longing in his eyes. Lyra turned slowly to both. You've been by my side from the start. But I must lead, not be led. My path is my own." Kyle's voice was low, husky. "Then I will follow, willingly. But make no mistake, I will not let anyone harm you." Rowan's words mirrored his loyalty. "Nor I. But I will let you decide your path. I will never force you." A silence settled over them, thick and electric. Lyra felt the pulse of power beneath her skin, the pull of two hearts, one fierce and commanding, the other steady and loyal, and knew that the bond she shared with them was more than love or loyalty. It was destiny. And from the shadows beyond the citadel, a new threat emerged. The Shadow Council's true champion stepped into the night, his eyes glowing with dark fire, magic coiling around him like living shadows. He had survived Lyra's last test and now sought to conquer not just the Moonbound, but the Alpha King himself. Lyra's silver-white glow intensified. She raised her hands. The moon answered, energy spiraling around her, Kale and Rowan. The storm was coming, and this time Lyra would face it, not as an apprentice, not as a pawn, but as the Moonbound Queen, with two warriors willing to risk everything for her. The battle for Moonfall Citadel, and the hearts entwined within it, was about to reach its peak. Clash of shadows and silver. Moonfall Citadel trembled under the roar of a dark storm. Lightning arced unnaturally across the sky, illuminating the courtyard where Lyra, Kyle, and Rowan waited. The Shadow Council's true champion had arrived, towering, clad in black and silver, eyes burning like molten fire, aura radiating pure malice. He laughed, a sound that scraped the soul. "So the Moonbound Queen awakens. How quaint!" Lyra's silver-white aura flared, coiling around her like living armor. "I am no one's pawn," she said, voice ringing like a bell through the night. "And tonight, your darkness ends." Kyle's wolf form surged forward instinctively, black fur bristling, claws extended, teeth glinting under the moonlight. Rowan moved at his side, blade ready, every muscle coiled. The champion charged, a blur of shadow and steel. The three of them met him together, Kyle with brute power and feral speed, Rowan with precise strikes, Lyra with the pure, unstoppable force of the Moonbound. The clash was cinematic. Kyle slammed into the champion, throwing him across the stone courtyard with a roar that rattled windows. Rowan's blade flashed, cutting through shadow tendrils that tried to wrap around Lyra. Lyra raised her hands, silver energy forming jagged spears that struck like lightning, burning through the champion's defenses without harming the earth or her allies. The champion staggered but grinned, dark magic coiling around his arms. "You cannot stop me all at once," he hissed. Lyra's eyes blazed brighter. "Watch me!" She stepped forward, linking Kale and Rowan through her moonbound energy. The ground shook. The air burned. Light tore through the shadows like a tidal wave. The champion screamed, his magic unraveling, his dark power dissolving against hers. Kyle and Rowan surged with her energy, synchronized in ways neither thought possible. Claws, blade, and silver light struck in perfect harmony. The champion crashed to the ground, defeated but alive, a warning to the council. Silence fell. Only the echo of wind and distant thunder remained. Kyle lowered himself beside Lyra, his golden eyes soft but intense. "You are unstoppable," he murmured, voice deep, husky, dangerous. Lyra exhaled, her aura dimming slightly. "I am not unstoppable alone. With you too we are." Rowan's chest heaved, gaze locking on hers. "And together, we survive anything." Kyle's hand found hers again, possessive but gentle. "You are mine," he said quietly, not by force, but because nothing else can contain you. Lyra's pulse quickened as she glanced at Rowan. "And you." Rowan stepped closer, eyes full of loyalty, care, and something more. "I am yours too. In every way you allow me to be." A tense, electric silence held between the three, hearts pounding, breaths mingling under the moonlight. Lyra felt the pull of two forces, both fierce, both protective, both desperately in love, and understood that this bond was unique, impossible, and her choice alone to define. The Shadow Council's forces, scattered and demoralized, watched from the shadows. Their champion defeated, their magic crumbling, they realized one terrifying truth: the Moonbound Queen had awakened. And with her, the Alpha King and Beta Commander were not just protectors, they were allies, warriors, and the fiercest hearts she could command. And under the silver moonlight, Lyra made a silent vow. No darkness, no council, no enemy would ever control her again. The kingdom was hers to defend, the Alpha and Beta were hers to bind by loyalty and love, and the legend of the Moonbound Queen would be written in fire and silver. Fire, moonlight, and hearts entwined. The citadel lay bathed in moonlight, the aftermath of battle leaving scorched stone and shattered banners in its wake. Yet Lyra stood at the center of the grand courtyard, her silver, white aura blazing like a living crown. The moonbound power inside her had fully awakened, controlled, precise, and terrifyingly beautiful. Kale and Rowan flanked her, two halves of a whole, both bound to her in ways words could not capture. The air between them pulsed with unspoken tension, love, loyalty, desire, and something deeper, the recognition that no one else in the world could share this bond with her. From the shadows, remnants of the Shadow Council stirred. Their leader, injured but defiant, stepped forward. "You may have won tonight, moonbound queen," he hissed, "but the darkness never dies." Lyra raised her hands. Silver light coiled and danced around her fingers, the moon above responding, casting her as both shield and storm. "Neither do I fear it. Tonight your darkness ends." Kyle's claws flexed, his fur shimmering in the moonlight. "Stand back. Let her do what only she can." Rowan's blade gleamed, but he mirrored Kyle's stance, ready to protect, ready to fight. The Shadow Council's leader lunged, magic crackling. Lyra moved, and with a single fluid motion, unleashed a pulse of moonbound energy. The ground trembled, the wind screamed, and the light twisted into beams that wrapped around the enemy, draining his power without spilling blood. Kyle and Rowan moved as one, synchronized with her energy, claws and blades striking in perfect harmony, defending her and amplifying her strength. Within moments, the leader collapsed, powerless. His magic dissipated like smoke in the wind. The courtyard fell silent. Wolves from every pack, warriors and elders, stared in awe at the trio standing victorious. Lyra's gaze met Kyle's first. His golden eyes burned with pride and something softer, fiercer, a possessive reverence. "You are mine," Kyle murmured, voice husky, letting his alpha dominance soften into something intimate. Lyra's pulse quickened. "And you are mine too," she whispered. She turned to Rowan. His eyes held steady loyalty, devotion, and love tempered by restraint. "And you?" she asked, heart thundering. "I am yours," he said simply, "in every way you allow me to be." For a moment, the three of them stood in perfect understanding, an impossible bond, yet real, forged in battle, trust, and shared power. Lyra stepped between them, taking both their hands in hers. "I choose," she said, her voice ringing over the courtyard, strong and unwavering. Not one over the other. Together. The moonlight surged, wrapping them in silver fire as the citadel seemed to sigh in approval. Wolves howled in the distance, echoing their unbreakable bond. Kale leaned close to Lyra, brushing a strand of silver hair behind her ear. "Then nothing will ever take you from me," he promised. Rowan stepped closer, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Nor from me. I will follow you anywhere." Lyra smiled, feeling the fullness of her moonbound power, the safety of their protection, and the love that existed between three hearts. She had faced prophecy, darkness, and war, and emerged not only alive but stronger, more powerful, and fully herself. The Shadow Council lay defeated, their forces scattered, but the future was theirs to define. Moonfall Citadel, once silent and waiting, now thrummed with life power and the promise of change. Under the silver moonlight, Lyra raised her hands, and the energy of the moonbound pulsed through the kingdom, a radiant beacon. "I am the moonbound queen," she declared. "And this is only the beginning." Kyle's hand found hers, Rowan's followed. Together they stood alpha, beta, and moonbound, a force that no darkness could overcome, a love that defied all rules, and a legend that would echo through generations. The moon shone brighter than ever, and the citadel was theirs, forever bound by fire, silver, and hearts entwined.